Far Cry Primal is a game that has been on my to-do list for a very long time. Notice how I said to-do list instead of phrasing it in a way that makes me sound like I wanted to play the game. Hey everyone, Jarek here. If you watch this channel, you know that I really like the Far Cry franchise. But Far Cry Primal didn't really interest me. I saw it more as a thing that I needed to play because I liked Far Cry, but I don't know, I didn't have the excitement for it that I do for other Far Cry games. I saw it looked interesting, but that was the extent of it. I actually bought it on launch, and I've yet to play it until now. Far Cry has always been an open-world first-person shooter franchise, and Far Cry Primal takes this in a very different direction. Primal takes place in the year 10,000 BCE, caveman time. And to be honest, my first response when they teased this was, why couldn't you have just given us Far Cry with dinosaurs? Seriously, Far Cry with dinosaurs seems like a perfect fit. It would be way more interesting than what we ended up getting. It also probably would have sold a lot better because everyone likes dinosaurs. Anyway, you play as a character by the name of Takar. Obviously, since this game takes place in 10,000 BCE, no one is speaking English. After doing apparently extensive research, Ubisoft made their own language. As far as immersion is concerned, this is commendable and interesting. But you'll just be reading the English subtitles. You play as Takar, a Wenja warrior. The Wenja tribe is currently at war with the Udon tribe. Their tribe has a big evil villain as you would expect in a Far Cry game. So yeah, as far as story is concerned, it's tribe against tribe. However, Far Cry is going to introduce many other characters. Primal is no different in this regard. I'll talk more about this when I'm talking about the gameplay, but keep that in your mind. What I did find interesting is that the main character in Primal is way better than any other main character in any other Far Cry game. In other Far Cry games, you're just going along with what people tell you. Takar seems like he's in control. He is the one leading what's going on. It's a nice change of pace. I always felt like Far Cry didn't do the protagonist justice. In Far Cry 2, you're a silent protagonist. In Far Cry 3, Jason Brody is a complete pussy and annoying as hell. People love to talk about how good the story in Far Cry 3 is, but the protagonist and the supporting cast is just really irritating. Far Cry 4, AJ just is there and does whatever anyone tells him to do for seemingly no reason. Far Cry 5, you're a silent protagonist again. The only likable Far Cry protagonist I can think of is Rex Powercolt from Blood Dragon.
I'm no hero. I'm just your everyday US military Mark IV cyber commando.
Graphically, Far Cry Primal is exactly what you would expect. It looks downright gorgeous, and I have no complaints. One of the biggest appeals to Far Cry as a whole is exploring beautiful open worlds, and this is no exception. I do want to briefly bring up that thing that everyone likes to talk about when they mention Primal, instead of actual valid reasons to discredit Primal. It apparently uses the same map as Far Cry 4. This does not look at all the same as Far Cry 4, and as someone that has put 122 hours into Far Cry 4, I cannot see the similarity. It apparently is the same basic layout, but really as you're walking around on this map, you are not going to see this as Far Cry 4. Primal felt like a totally different location and a totally different time period than Far Cry 4. I'm not blindly defending Primal here. I have a lot of criticisms that you were going to hear in this video. I just wish people would bring up actual criticisms instead of rehashing this over and over again. Anyway, the graphics. This is obviously based on Far Cry 4's engine, but it looks considerably better than Far Cry 4 to me. Not quite as good as Far Cry 5 obviously, but still a damn good looking game. I feel like Far Cry is always at its best when it comes to pure raw nature, and that's all this game is. Seeing God rays coming through the pine trees with animals doing as they please all around you, it is genuinely beautiful. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to pick a direction and then just walk and explore. This is what Far Cry does best, and that's on full display here. But then we get to the gameplay, and this is where I have most of my complaints. As I mentioned earlier, Far Cry has always been a first-person shooter, but this game is certainly not a first-person shooter, despite the fact that it's still in first person with almost the same gameplay, but not the same gameplay at all. This will make sense, stick with me. So all of your combat is melee based, but they didn't change anything to make melee combat more enjoyable. Your options in melee combat are to click to do a fast attack or hold the button down to do a heavy attack, and that's it. This effectively boils down to sprint at enemy, jump to their side, mash button till they die. Even a very basic, simple blocking mechanic would have made this so much better. Hell, the last Aliens vs Predator did a better melee combat system than this game. You could have taken the exact same rock, paper, scissors system from that game, put it into this game, and it gets better. You have a block now. You can block their light attacks, but if they do a heavy attack, then they can break through your block. However, if they start charging up a heavy attack, you can just do a light attack, and there you go. Boom, rock, paper, scissors, the melee combat is instantly better. If you really want to spice things up, give them a dodge instead of having this awkward slow strafe side to side. Dodging attacks is really awkward. You strafe and walk very slowly, so it pretty much isn't an option. Your ability to dodge attacks is basically just to sprint and jump around like a crackhead. Instead of making a proper melee combat system, they just kind of put a band-aid over it by giving you a bunch of gimmicks. You still have takedowns, so stealth is still pretty powerful. You do get a bow and arrow, so you have some range, but this mainly adds to your stealth. You get throwing knives, or basically throwing rocks. Your grenades are replaced with throwable beehives. I gotta admit, that one's actually pretty fun. And you can tame, quote-unquote, wild beasts, which are pretty much a huge band-aid for the whole game. Once you tame certain wild beasts, they're going to kill mostly everything for you. They also fix another really big problem Far Cry has: the inability to be left alone. I get that you're a caveman. I get that it's not safe to be out in nature. But everything on the face of the planet wants to kill you. Constantly. I would understand if occasionally you'd have a saber-toothed tiger attack you. That would be perfectly fine. But you can't go 20 feet without something trying to kill you. Their solution isn't to fix this problem, as is shown by Far Cry 5 where it's still a problem. Their solution was to give you a beast which just deters things from attacking you to begin with. In all fairness, the only time I felt like I was genuinely having fun was when I was going to get these beasts, so let me explain them. In order to even begin taming beasts, you have to accept one of those standard Far Cry drug missions. Okay, cool, why not? This introduces a supporting character to you, you do the mission, now you can tame beasts, and it opens a new skill tree. In order to tame beasts, all you have to do is throw bait on the ground, walk up to them, and hold the E button. I'm not kidding, it is that easy. Now, I would prefer it to be easier rather than a big chore, but this just seems really silly. It also isn't any harder to tame the bigger beasts than the smaller ones. It's just as easy to tame a dhole as it is to tame a bear. Regardless, I went out of my way to tame all the beasts that I possibly could, and it was entertaining to see how you could pet each one in different ways. And admittingly, it is awesome to just be able to walk around and have a fucking saber-toothed tiger walking next to you. Yeah, I'm not gonna fuck with anyone that has a pet saber-toothed tiger, are you crazy? But as far as the fun standpoint goes, I think my favorite pet is actually the badger. Yes, you can tame a badger in this game. It's awesome. This thing doesn't actually attack anything. It just angrily chirps at them, and everything is afraid of it. Everything runs away. Even a mammoth. This is hilarious, but it also kind of goes back to what I was saying by these pets are just a band-aid to make things stop attacking you. They do a vast majority of your work, and they allow you to just explore without getting bothered as long as your pet is around you, and they should follow you as you tell them to. So your beasts do everything for you. They attack enemies, and they make the wildlife leave you alone. You can pretty much just have your beasts do all of your work for you the entire game and not really play the game. However, Far Cry Primal is also supposed to be a survival game, so there's systems upon systems. Remember how I said taming the beast requires you to do a mission that introduces a new character and then eventually opens up a skill tree? This is true for pretty much everything. There's a ridiculous amount of skill trees in this game. There's also a ridiculous amount of things you can craft. You have things in your village that you can upgrade by collecting a certain amount of materials out in the open. You can upgrade your melee weapons by finding certain materials out in the open world to make the melee combat a little bit less crappy. You will get skill points to add to your own skill trees. You need to find a certain character which will make you do a mission, which will then give you the grappling hook, so now you have a skill tree that pertains to that grappling hook. The routine is basically find character, do mission, get new skill tree, grind to get points so you can upgrade that skill tree, try to find materials so you can upgrade everything else, and honestly it just starts feeling like a really big chore. As I said, the only real fun I had in this game was going out of my way to find the beasts. Other than that, I was remarkably just bored. I don't feel like Primal is a bad game. It's just a really weird game to make a Far Cry game. I don't think any of this gameplay necessarily attracts the typical Far Cry player base. I also don't think it would have been received anywhere near as poorly if it was just Far Cry 4 Primal and a $15-20 expansion. People then would have expected something like Blood Dragon, which is what they would have gotten. Instead, I find myself actually complaining that there's too much content in Primal because I look at it as a big chore for all the things I need to do to keep going forward. It seems like Ubisoft's idea was to make a survival game, and their idea of making a survival game is to add all the tedious elements from survival games and then to shove it into Far Cry. Again, this is speaking from someone that generally likes Far Cry games, not survival games. So I can see what the appeal would be if you like other styles of games, but that's not really me. So I guess I'll answer the question in the title of this video. How bad is Far Cry Primal actually? It's not bad. Clearly there was a lot of effort put into this game. It's just not for me. It's just not something that I would care too much to play. I do think people were a little too harsh on Primal, but I think people are generally too harsh on Far Cry games as a whole. If it's not Far Cry 3, it apparently sucks and is rehashing the same shit over and over again. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that in the comments for any Far Cry game. Seriously, with the news of Far Cry 6 coming out, I actually have to not look at the comments, because it doesn't matter where I am. YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, the comments are always the same thing. It's just people complaining about it being the same boring game over and over and over again. Most of these people haven't played the last 2 Far Cry games. Why are you here? Why are you complaining? Let people enjoy the game they like. To me, if I'm explaining a bad game, I mean it's a game that doesn't even function or is frustratingly broken in some balance way or another. Primal isn't any of that. It's a functional game that does what it's intended to do perfectly fine. It's just not for me. If it sounds fun to you, then I would implore you to give it a go or at least try it when it goes on sale. Again, it's not bad. But goddamn, I was so bored. This video might be a little bit shorter than my other ones. I honestly just don't have a whole lot to say because I don't even really want to talk about this game too much. It's just that boring to me. Thank all of you that showed up when I was streaming on Twitch. My Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. If you subscribe, you get to see my videos one day ahead of time. Same thing for my patrons over on patreon.com/Jarek4. I have a bunch of tiers over there that you can check out if you want to. Hey, I'm also super close to 200k. If you guys would consider subscribing and clicking that bell, that would help me a lot. The goal is right there. I can see it, but I need you guys to help to reach it. Thank all of you for watching, and I will see you next video.